Her name was Eleanor Whitmore. She was 68 years old, with decades of memories folded neatly between the creases of her linen curtains and the sun-worn planks of her wraparound porch. Her home, tucked away in the quiet hills of northern Oregon, had once been filled with the echoes of family. Now it hummed with silence. The kind of silence that didn't just surround you, but got into your bones. Eleanor had lived alone for over 15 years. Her husband, Thomas, had passed suddenly one spring morning, just after planting the marigolds. He'd gone in his sleep, she liked to say, though the truth was slower, sadder, one of those cruel, drawn-out illnesses that steals the warmth from a home long before it steals the body. The grief had settled quietly into the corners of her life. She no longer cried. She no longer reached across the bed. But she also no longer opened herself to the world beyond her garden gate. Eleanor didn't host friends. She didn't travel. She didn't attend the church dinners she once used to plan. She found safety in solitude. Until that morning. It was late summer. The sky was unusually bright for that early hour, and Eleanor had risen before the alarm. Not that she needed one anymore. She walked barefoot across the hardwood floors, the coolness waking her step by step. She wore her favorite robe, one Thomas had gifted her long ago. It was cream-colored silk with embroidered flowers along the sleeves. The belt had gone missing years ago, and she hadn't bothered to replace it. She liked the way it hung loose, unstructured, soft. She walked to the kitchen, filled the kettle and turned it on. Then she opened the back door for air, and forgot to close it. Eleanor didn't notice it as she returned to the living room. She sat down on the arm of the couch, letting the early sunlight cast golden lines across her chest and shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't rush to cover up. Her robe dipped low the way it always did, but that morning, something in her didn't mind. And that's when she heard the footsteps. Not cautious ones. Not sneaky or deliberate. Confident. Steady. And getting closer. It was Nate, the neighbor's son. Grown now. He used to mow her lawn in high school for $10. Now he was 35 and took care of the property since his mother moved away. He knocked, but the door was already ajar. "Hello," he called out, voice unsure. Eleanor froze. And then he stepped inside. The room was still. Her robe was open. Her skin bare in places it hadn't been seen in years. Nate turned the corner, saw her, and stopped cold. His eyes widened, then darted away. He muttered a quick apology, turned, and left without another word. Eleanor didn't chase him. She didn't speak. She simply stood there, one hand to her chest, breath caught in her throat. Not because of shame. Not because of fear. But because, for the first time in so long, she had felt something. Not desire. Not embarrassment. But presence. She was seen. Later, she closed the door and made her tea. She sat in silence, the mug warm between her fingers, staring at the patch of carpet where he had stood. That tiny moment, no longer than a few seconds, left something ringing inside her, like a bell struck gently, then left to echo. 4 days after, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Not about Nate, but about the version of herself that had been sitting there. Unguarded, unconcerned, unknowingly vulnerable. That version of her hadn't cared how she looked. She hadn't been worried about appearances. She had simply been herself. And someone else had walked in and seen her as she was. That week, she found herself opening the curtains a little wider, sitting outside longer. She put on a dress she hadn't worn since before Thomas died. Not for anyone else. For herself. And then, without planning it, Eleanor began painting again. Her easel had been buried in the attic since the year her husband passed. She pulled it out, dusted it off, and set it up in the sunroom. Each morning, she filled the canvas with soft, swirling shapes. Not landscapes, not portraits, just color, emotion. Weeks passed, and the change was steady, subtle, but real. She started cooking new recipes, reading books she'd put off for years. She took evening walks through the fields beyond her home. Sometimes she saw Nate in the distance, tending the fence or checking the well. He always waved, She always waved back. They never spoke of that morning. But in a strange way, it didn't matter. Eleanor had already reclaimed something far more valuable than her privacy. She had reclaimed her awareness, her aliveness. One morning, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. Her skin had softened with age. Her hair fell in silver waves over her shoulders. And yet, there was a fire behind her eyes that hadn't been there for years. She smiled. The door had been left open once. And in that single moment, something long hidden had walked back in.